Josh Giddey makes a Rising Stars game. What's to come from Josh Giddey's future? How many Rising Star players would you rank ahead of Josh Giddey? And some more injury news regarding the Oklahoma City Thunder. All of this and more coming up on today's Locked On Thunder on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. You can follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod and email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into the Thunder getting set to take on the Portland Trailblazers and also Josh Giddey's Rising Stars game, Thunder Stock Watch, and more injury updates. But let's start with Josh Giddey, who was named a Rising Star, the 12th player in Thunder history to be named a Rising Star. Dyson Daniels, who he played with in the NBL in Australia, was also named to the Rising Stars as a part of the new format where they're going to break them into four teams and include NBA G League players, 4 players from the NBA G League Ignite. Of course, that's the program where draft-eligible players play on that squad, which Dyson Daniels is. Teams we drafted, again, this year, they're going to break them into 4 different teams, so you need a draft for that, and the draft will be taking place on Friday at 4:30 on NBA TV. That draft will be selected by the 4 Hall of Fame coaches that will be playing there. They're the 4 players from the top 75 player list of all time that came out earlier this season. Those guys will coach the team, and so they're going to draft the team as well. And then the actual event itself takes place February 18th in All-Star Weekend in Cleveland. The only Thunder player is Josh Giddey that will be participating in All-Star Weekend, barring any sort of weird three-point contest selection of like Mike Muscala or something. All in all, it'll likely only be Josh Giddey who participates in All-Star Weekend for the Thunder in Cleveland, and it'll happen on February 18th, so mark your calendars for that. Now, the other rookies in the Rising Stars game and other participants in the game, which I think is very interesting, especially with where the Thunder are at right now. The Thunder roster is comprised mainly of young players. It's the youngest roster in the NBA, and they're starting their rebuild and want to get young, controllable players. So how many of these players in this Rising Stars showcase would you rather have than Josh Giddey as we go down this list? You go down with just the rookies themselves, first of all. You have Franz Wagner, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Anthony Shingun, Herbert Jones, Davion Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, Chris Duarte, Ayo Dosunmu, Jalen Green, and Jalen Suggs. Of those rookies, you have one of the best ones. Josh Giddey is a top-tier rookie. Then the other participants, of course, these are kind of the sophomores of the group. Cole Anthony, Desmond Bane, LaMelo Ball, Sadiq Bey, Anthony Edwards, Therese Halliburton, Therese Maxey, Jade McDaniels, Isaac Okoro, Isaiah Stewart, Jayshawn Tate, and Precious Achura. And then the G League players, the 4 that are on the G League team, of course, these are going to be draft-eligible players for the most part. I don't think that Scoot's eligible until next year, but Scoot Henderson, Jaden Hardy, Dyson Daniels, and Marjan Beauchamp. Of that entire list of players who will take place in this February 18th showcase of the youngest, brightest rising stars in the NBA, who would you rather have besides Josh Giddey? Anthony Edwards, to me, is a lock. You'd rather, if you could just trade 1 for 1, you take Giddey, trade him for Anthony Edwards, and put Anthony Edwards next to this roster, next to SGA. I think you do that. I think that Anthony Edwards is a guy that has that swagger about him, has that bravado and that leadership about him, and is just a winner, and also a very good basketball player and scorer. And I think that it might be an interesting fit between him and SGA, just as Josh Giddey is an interesting fit between him and SGA. I think that you take LaMelo Ball over him as a player, as a 1-for-1 player, over Josh Giddey right now. But there's, of course, similarities between those two games, between LaMelo and Josh Giddey. I think that you probably like LaMelo more as a scorer than Josh Giddey at this point in their careers. And that's the only two sophomores I'd rather have than Josh Giddey. And then you look at the rookies. And of these rookies, I'd rather have Evan Mobley from this class and Cade Cunningham from this class. Now, that's my preference. I can see the argument for wanting a Scotty Barnes over Josh Giddey. So, at most that this list extends to is 5, and it can extend to as little as 4. I think that with Josh Giddey, you have to step back. And to me, this is a great context of how good he's been this rookie season. Other than just saying, wow, look at that pass, or wow, look at how surprising this is. When you put it into context of let's compile all these rising stars, let's get a group of names of the top rookies and sophomores in the league, and where would Josh Giddey shake out? He's top 4. Now, take you back 6 months ago where you don't have draft lottery luck, you fall to pick 6, the sky's falling. It's been a 5-player draft all year. And for the past 2 years, really, it was a 5-player draft, and it was the same 5 names of Kuminga and Green and Mobley and Cunningham. And now you're left out in the cold. Suggs, of course, the 5th name. You're left out in the cold at pick 6. It's doomsday scenario stuff here. There's a chance you could have had 2 top 5 picks. You thought you were a lock for a top 5 pick, and you only come with pick 6. And then draft night comes, and Scotty Barnes leaps into the top 5. Kuminga, who's been a top 5 prospect the entire process until the last month of this process, is on the board. With him on the board is James Bouknight, who has been rumored to be Sam Presti's guy for the last month. And all of a sudden, Adam Silver walks out on that stage and says Josh Giddey. From that moment to right now, would you have ever believed we'd be saying that Josh Giddey is a top 4 player when it comes to rookies and sophomores in this league? He's already proven that much to everybody with the way that he plays the game and the way that he kind of fits into the NBA style. Hats off to Josh Giddey for that feat. And again, I could see the argument for Scotty Barnes. So maybe he's 5 at that point. Maybe you push down and have 5 players over Josh Giddey. But it's been a heck of a ride in this half a season so far. But you can really start to see the special traits of Josh Giddey, and the most encouraging thing being how sustainable it feels. It does not feel like he's being somebody who he's kind of being a beneficiary of getting a lot of minutes and a lot of opportunity that, say, Kuminga's not getting right now, right? It feels like these are not stats and attributes that he's getting and accolades he's getting just because he's being on the team that's starting him from day one. It feels like this is sustainable and repeatable for him, and it has been so far this season. And you just have so much faith in him to continue to develop as his work ethic shines through each and every day. And he is realistic with himself. And he says, multiple times this year that he needs to change his jump shot. And you just can't change the jump shot mid-season. So that's an area where 2 years in the line, you're going to be looking at a huge upgrade. And if that actually comes to fruition, he gets that jump shot and he becomes a better scorer, then that list grows smaller and smaller. And it's already only at 4 or 5 names right now of rookies and sophomores who you'd rather have than Josh Giddey. And that's the kind of stuff that can change the timeline of the tank. It can change the course of your rebuild. It can change the fate of your franchise. Is by hitting on guys like Josh Giddey at pick 6 and making chicken salad out of chicken something else. Really impressive stuff from Josh Giddey this year. Hats off to him for being a rising star. And again, catch that action on Friday, February 18th in Cleveland, Ohio. And let's see how he can do against his top counterparts, his top peers in this rising stars setting. We'll see how that goes coming up. We're going to talk about him winning Rookie of the Month again, but also we have an injury update on Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, a special edition of Thunder Stock Watch, and we're going to preview the game tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. But first, I want to say right now, Our good friends over at betonline.net. BetOnline has you covered this year with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football continues to march toward the big game in a couple of weeks, betonline.net remains the best spot for all of your scores and podcasts and news all season long. It's not just football, though. BetOnline.net has up to the minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Do not wait. Take advantage right now of these amazing offers available for the 2022 season. Bet online, where the game starts. We are back on Locked On Thunder podcast, on Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I want to thank you right now for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NBA podcast, which gets you set all around the association. And I do want to remind you that the NBA trade deadline is 1 week away. That's right, 1 week. February 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern is the NBA trade deadline. And you know what? We have you covered like only we can. The Locked On NBA podcast will be covering this event live from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. Join Kim Becker, John Corrales, and Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to get breakdowns and analysis of all the blockbuster moves. Subscribe to the Locked On NBA YouTube page and get that notification so you know whenever they're live. And again, I'll be in there from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be in the chat saying what I'm hearing about the Thunder. They'll be there breaking it down. If the Thunder make a move, I'll hop on there. And all of our local experts will chip in as well if their team makes a move. So you're going to get a ton of breakdown coverage, and you're going to know exactly what's happening at the deadline if you just tune in to this stream. Pop it open, another tab at work, and just have it on and listen to what's happening so that way you don't have to be mindlessly scrolling through Twitter and not doing your job. Listen while you work. Locked On NBA podcast there on YouTube for the live stream on YouTube on the deadline day, February 10th at 2 p.m. Central. Let's continue this edition of Locked On Thunder, and let's start by continuing to praise Josh Giddey for winning Rookie of the Month again for the month of January. He's 3 for 3 on Rookies of the Month, and he might go wire to wire. Honestly, I think he will. Knock on wood that he's not suffering injury, but if he's healthy all year long, I really think that he's going to go wire to wire for Rookie of the Month awards in the Western Conference. And that obviously locks him into being an all-rookie. His stats, his accolades already being the best to ever get double-doubles as a rookie in the Thunder history, right? He's already passed Russ on that feat, and he's going to continue to make that number almost unachievable by any other rookie as he continues his season going forward on the double-doubles streak. But the youngest to ever get a triple-double in NBA history, that will not be broken this season. And his just play on the court is going to lock him into that all-rookie status. And to show how elite this draft class is, he's going to be an all-rookie player, first team. He's going to have gone wire to wire in Rookie of the Month awards for the Western Conference, and he's not going to win Rookie of the Year. I think that Evan Mobley's a lock for Rookie of the Year. I think that you're hoping for a top 3 finish for Josh Giddey. You're hoping that he can finish behind Mobley and then kind of above or below one of Barnes or Cunningham. And I think he can do it. I think he deserves to be top 3, but it'll be an interesting vote to see how the media handles the placement of it, because I do think that Mobley is a lock for Rookie of the Year. And I think it's more interesting to see who will finish top 3 between Cunningham, Giddey, and Barnes. But sadly, the Thunder have another injury to discuss. They've been hit with the injury bug over the course of these last few days after being pretty healthy all season long, one of the healthier teams this season, losing the least amount of games due to injury of any NBA team. But now Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is out for at least 6 weeks. He sustained a right foot fracture. He'll be reevaluated in approximately 6 weeks. And again, as we said with SGA earlier this week, reevaluation does not mean return. That's just when they're going to check him out again. So it's 6 weeks from checking him out. And then from that point, you'll have a return date. And the return date likely could be the next day, but also could be 3 more weeks or 4 more weeks. So his season obviously is going to be an interesting finish for his rookie year. And the question now becomes, what does this mean? But first, I want to talk about just how good he's been this year. Such a bummer to end his rookie season this way. If it does end, not that it's going to end, but just to kind of have this hanging over his rookie season, he's been very good. 7 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and assists per game, and shooting 33% from three, getting a ton of starts in this season, playing in that small ball 5 role. Just love what we've seen from JRE, and that he's going to be a really big piece of the Thunder future in some capacity. Right now, is that going to be at a starting level or a bench level, whatever the case is? He's going to be a part of the future core for the Thunder. But what does this mean for the Thunder moving forward? It's interesting because the deadline comes up next week, and so we'll get a clearer picture next week. But assuming that they stay on the team, does this mean more of Kenny Hustle and Mike Muscala? Now, Muscala, of course, is dealing with that not minute restriction, but like minute spurts that they want to keep him on to help nurse that ankle. So maybe his minutes it's not going to be directly impacted or inflated, but you're probably going to see more of Kenrich Williams given the injury aspect of this team right now. And that makes the team a lot better, right? The more Kenny Hustle plays, the better this team is. The more Mike Muscala plays, the better this team is. And so that's an interesting aspect as we continue to move on this season and check out the Tankathon standings each and every day. Now, Mamadi Diake is on that 10-day deal seal that will take him to the deadline. And at that point, the Thunder can either move on from him or sign him to that extra roster spot that they have right now from waiving Gabriel Deck. So they have to make a decision on him. So does that mean that now with JRE out, he's going to start again tonight against Portland, and he's going to play 30 minutes a night for the next few days here leading up to the decision time for him? But we'll see on that front. The most important question for this is that you take this Portland game, for example, you're without Jeremiah Robinson-Earl for 6 weeks. You don't have SGA until after the All-Star break. Vid Krejci is out with an ankle injury. Isaiah Roby's out. Aaron Wiggins is out. That's your Portland preview, right? You're without SGA, Jerry, Wiggins, Vit, and Roby. Is Poku going to play? Is Poku going to suit up here and be in the rotation after not being in that rotation against Dallas and not being in the rotation recently for Mark? Is he going to get some minutes here for the Thunder? That's kind of the big thing to me in this Jerry injury. Is this the opening? Is this the crack in the door to get Poku back in that rotation regularly and back in more of a role he's in last year, where he's playing whatever minutes a night it was, 20 minutes a night, or getting just a more sustainable run at the NBA level in these 6 weeks that Jerry's gone, or beyond 6 weeks, depending on how that reevaluation goes. But wishing Jerry a great and speedy recovery. He's been phenomenal this year, so always want to see him stay healthy and bounce back after this, whenever that is going to happen. So that's the update on that. Now, coming up, we'll have our Friday edition of Stock Watch and preview the game against Portland before returning tonight to recap the game against Portland. So another weekend bonus episode of Locked On Thunder coming your way in your podcast feeds tonight into Saturday morning, because this game is on the West Coast. So make sure you got your coffee handy and you're ready to rumble with this West Coast swing. I mean, goodness gracious, doesn't the NBA know? Scheduling these 9 p.m. tip times, I'm going to be drinking like 17 cups of coffee today, about 3 before noon. Then I'll probably ease off of it. And then right about tip off, right about when Coach talks to those of us in the media, whenever he kind of hops in the Zoom with us, I'll be hitting another cup of coffee. And then at halftime, I'll hit another cup of coffee. And then after the post-game Zoom, I'll probably hit another cup of coffee to get some work done after the game. It's not good. It's not good for us central time zone people. And then guess what, folks? You turn around Saturday and you play another 9 p.m. tip in Sacramento. These back-to-backs, they're hard. They're hard, but I love it. I love all of the listeners out there as well. This is why we churn out the content. So thank you for listening to Locked On Thunder and making us your first listen every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Tell me how much coffee you're going to consume to stay up and watch the Thunder play this West Coast back-to-back swing. But again, coming up, we'll have our segment on Thunder Stock Watch. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. Go to builtbar.com, use the promo code LOCK15, get 15% off of your next order. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, about 30 grams of sugar, and a dozen net carbs. You know which one to pick. You pick the one that has 100% chocolate on the outside. Listen, it's so easy to eat healthy when you're picking a Built Bar because number one, they satisfy that chocolate craving by having the 100% chocolate on the outside. Number two, it does not taste chalky or waxy or like chemicals like some of these other protein bars do. And number three, most importantly for me, is the lack of repetition in the sense of I personally love the cookies and cream Built Bar. So I can down those cookies and cream Built Bars all day. But if you ever see that you're kind of in that repetitive habit, they have so many flavors to choose from that you just will have your head spinning with how many flavors you can shake it up with. So you can always stay on your toes and always mix it up and not get too bored of doing the right thing and eating healthier and being better with Built Bar. Go to built.com, promo code LOCK15, 15% off your next order. Promo code LOCK15, 15% off of your next order. We are back on Locked On Thunder on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. Let's dive into Thunder Stock Watch to end the show. We're going to open up the stock bond. What do they call the bell ringing? Is that the end or the beginning of the stock session? I don't know. We're going to start buying and selling stock here in different Thunder topics. Let's start with Tre Mann. Buy or sell, Tre Mann will be an elite NBA scorer. Scorer, not a player necessarily, but a scorer. I'm buying that. I'm buying that because I think that he has all the tools to really put the ball in the hoop as a player, as a creator. And he's shown a surprising ability to do it off the ball as well as on the ball. And I think that that really bodes well for his future. He can just score in so many ways. I talk all the time on this podcast about his scoring tree and how many branches come off that scoring tree, the step back, the floater, the mid-range, the catch and shoot, getting to the rim and finishing through contact as a kind of smaller, quote-unquote, guard. I think that Tre Mann is going to be an elite scorer in this league. The next one, buy or sell JRE being a legit piece for this organization. Yeah, I said it. I spoiled it in the JRE segment, but I'm buying it. JRE's legit. Now, every time we talk JRE, we've got to give a huge shout out to our local draft expert, Richard Stamen, who's on the Locked On Podcast Network and is our Locked On Thunder draft correspondent. He helped us out all last year with draft coverage, coming on every single week talking draft. He'll be back on here again starting next week to talk some drafts. So look forward to that as well. And on his big board, all year long, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl was top 12, folks. Top 12 in Richard's big board all last year. He was high on JRE, and now so am I. Love JRE. Absolutely think that he's a future piece of this organization moving forward to help them get back to where they want to be. Now, buy or sell, Josh Giddey being a top 3 rookie in this class. So that means that he has to supplant one of Cade Cunningham or Scotty Barnes because you have Evan Mobley as a 1. I think that Evan Mobley is going to be a top 3 player in this class no matter what happens with the rest of them. So Mobley takes up one of those spots. And then for Josh Giddey to be in that position, he takes up one of those spots. So now you'll only have one left for the rest of the rookie class because you have to lock in Mobley. You, at this scenario, have to lock in Josh Giddey. Can he bump out enough guys to be top 3? I think personally he can. I think personally that he can leapfrog whoever you want to pick from Barnes or Cunningham and be a top 3 rookie in this class. So I'll buy that as well. Buy or sell Pokusevski, who's fallen out of their Thunder rotation. They're kind of still working with him. We talked about this at the end of the last podcast. So if you missed that, go check out yesterday's podcast where we talked all about this at the end of the Mavericks recap show about what Mark said pregame on Pokusevski falling out of the rotation. I'm still going to slightly buy. And I'm just going to buy one share of this topic, for example. I'm not going all in, but I'm not all out like some people are. I think that this organization has put too much faith, trust, or uh, too much stock, for lack of a better word, in Poku to where they're not going to give up on it so easily, right? They've made it known they think that he can be a superstar, and they think that he can be a unicorn player, and they just couldn't stop talking about it last pre-draft, where it was the rare draft leak that was actually true from the Thunder to get Poku. That you do not give up on that after a season. You just don't. And as I said yesterday, to do this job, to be an NBA executive, an NBA head coach, an NBA anything, NBA player, anything, you have to have some sort of edge about you. You have to have some sort of ego about you. It's not easy to say, hey, I got this one wrong, right? So the judgment's still out on Poku if it's right or wrong, the draft pick. So in that scenario, to me, Poku is going to be a buy, at least for next year, being on the team and in the rotation, and the year after that. And then from there, after those 2 years, then you start to think, maybe he's not fit for the NBA. Or you say, maybe Sam Presti was right and this guy can be a unicorn. These next 2 years to me is what's going to define Pokusevski. I said before the season started this year that, hey guys, let's not freak out if we do not see a leap from Poku. We saw that leap from the start of the season to the G League bubble to post G League bubble last year. Let's not be shocked if he's one of these guys, which happens often in the NBA, that their leap happens year 2 to 3 and not year 1 to 2. And so far, that feeling has been trending in the right direction for me of like, his leap hasn't happened from year 1 to 2. And hopefully it happens 2 to 3, because I think that in the minutes Poku's gotten, he's played pretty well. He's played pretty well in those minutes. He's just kind of on a tighter leash than he was last year. And so he doesn't have those crazy highlights, but also doesn't have those crazy lowlights either. And then buy or sell, OKC finishes with a bottom 3 record in the league. I'm hoping I can buy this one. I'm hoping to eventually feel confident enough to buy. Right now, I would just sit here and hold. But if I had to pick one side or the other, I'd sell. I think that there's just something about this Thunder team where they're going to win just too many games to be bottom 3, and they'll be about where they're at right now at 4, in my opinion. So hopefully I'm wrong for the sake of the draft pick, but we'll see what actually happens down the stretch of this season. And it starts tonight against Portland. We'll be back to recap this game against Portland tonight, recapping the Kings game on Sunday, and going all throughout the week on Locked On Thunder past that. So until then, I'm Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Until tomorrow, be good and be good to one.